I was born in Jordan, grew up in Jordan, and when I was about 18 years old, I converted to Christianity after 1 year of being um, committed, devout to Islam. What
Mm,
happened, and that led me to become very devout in that year, was the Danish cartoonist who drew Muhammad, the Prophet of Islam, back in 2006. And that act sent waves of rage and protest across the Islamic world.
mm,
Um, and everyone was emotionally charged at the time.
mm,
It's like, because, you know, in our imagination, Muhammad is more important than Allah. When
mm,
Muslims tell you that they are monotheist, Islam is a religion of monotheism. Yeah, that is true when you read scripture. But in practical theology, Islam is a pagan religion because
wow.
Muhammad is more important than Allah in the Islamic imagination. That is not an accusation. That is not analysis. That is just the fact of the reality. Even in the Islamic jurisprudence, if you curse Allah, you get to repent. If you curse Muhammad, you die, even if you repent. So
Wow.
Islam claims to be a monotheist religion, but of course it's not. So when that infidel Danish cartoonist um, painted Muhammad, that was like an eruption in our world. Like
Mm,
we couldn't imagine what was happening, especially that we were prisoned um, inside our own bubble before the world of social media. Um, Before social media, invade the world, we were not exposed to any criticism of Islam whatsoever. All the narratives that we were sold for generations and generations is that all the infidels are converting to Islam all the time. The scientists,
hmm.
everyone knows Islam is the true religion. Um, uh, Armstrong on the moon, in his trip to the moon, he heard the call to prayer. There's a call to prayer on the moon. These are the kind
What?
of ridiculous stories. Yeah, yeah, yeah. It's like the person who invented the computer was a Muslim Palestinian. The person who invented medicine for cancer is from Yemen. He's a Muslim. But, the Zionists, the infidels, they kidnap our scientists. They
Wow.
hijack our inventions. So we were living in a bubble,
Yeah.
right? And we were not exposed to such criticism of Muhammad. So I became very devout. I was like, I gotta defend my prophet, my religion.
Hmm.
And 1 year later, I left Islam because, thank God, I I was not wired to believe all that nonsense
Mm.
in Islamic history.
So what
Not
kind of
all
a kid were you to in that world steeped in it where you're looking around, you're going, this ain't it. How you know what I mean? Like I see folks who they're 90 years old and they still believe the same fairy tales, even though they've been exposed to so much.
well, as a Christian, I believe it's the grace of God. It's not me.
Amen.
So
Yeah.
I I'm a Calvinist,
Hmm.
hardcore Calvinist. I believe that it was God who chose me. It was not me who chose God. So, but listen, man, it's people are searching for salvation,
Hmm.
and whatever framework you provide them with when they are children, when they are young, gets to stick to
Yeah.
it becomes very solid. You cannot shake it. You cannot challenge it. It takes particular set of intellectual skills, I believe.
Hmm.
And I'm not talking here about IQ. Of course
Yeah.
not. It's like you could get like a PhD in neuroscience and still believe that Muhammad uh, traveled to heaven on a winged monkey. Uh, i- it's like Mahdi Hassan, for example. He's like a brilliant journalist, but at the same
Hmm.
time, he's stupid when it comes to all these
Yeah.
stories. He believe all of them. Uh, but what actually did like that disenchantment with Islam that I experienced was reading Islamic history, reading how the Quran was revealed.
Mm,
It was obvious, like, um, Muhammad was revealing verses to accommodate his desires, his needs.
mm,
So whenever he's like, um, uh, he's driven to a corner, the Quran always comes to help, to save, to take him out of that situation. So it was very obvious, and actually, it was not only me who saw that. It was a companion of Muhammad. His name is Abdullah ibn Abi Sarh.
mm,
He was among those who were writing the revelation. So Muhammad would recite the Quran, the
mhm,
new Quran, and they would write it down. So he was one of these people. And then he left Islam and he fled to Mecca, from Medina to Mecca. And he told his tribe, if Muhammad is a prophet, then I am too a prophet. So they asked him why. And he said, when he's reciting the Quran, sometimes um, he says something and I would finish the sentence and he would like it. And he would say, just keep it as it is, as you said it.
unbelievable.
So, so it was obvious that this was a scam.
Wow.
But of course, listen, I understand that many scholars, they, from like a scholarship perspective, they would say Muhammad didn't exist or all the stories about Muhammad are not true. That doesn't matter because whether Muhammad existed or not has nothing to do with the reality that we are experiencing now. In the mind of 2 billion Muslims, Muhammad existed. So that is why I never cared for the argument of historical Jesus, for example, versus chronological Jesus. Because who cares when it comes to the experience that, when it comes to the manifestation of these ideas, it doesn't really matter what scholars say, what you find in history. People are going to believe their canonical text, canonical scripture, and that is the same thing with Islam. So anyway, I left Islam almost 1 year after deciding to devote myself to serve Islam,
Mm.
and living in a country where 99%, 98% of the population is one sect, Sunni Muslims. w- w- It's like you probably find this like shocking, but I've never seen or
Yeah.
met anyone who is not Sunni until I was 18. Never. So
Not
imagine the
just
world.
outside like ethnicity, you're just talking about sect within Islam.
Yeah, it's like with it. It's like no, 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 no. Never, never seen, never met any person who was not a Sunni Muslim in my life until I was 18. So
Wow.
yeah, it's like imagine, and that is the problem with Islamic uh, countries. Um, Diversity. It's like you can live next to non-Muslims,
Yeah.
but you wouldn't know why, because they are pressured to conform to the society, what the societal conditions. So Christians in Jordan, for example, even though they're like 2%, but sometimes they're neighbors, they were coworkers, but you wouldn't know. It's not easy to know because they call their children Islamic names.
Mm.
Um, they use the same language under the label of tradition or culture. So they don't say we are being Islamized. They say, no, this is like our culture. No, it's not.
Okay.
It's your culture has been Islamized. But anyway,
Correct.
so yeah, that was the world I grew up in, and when it comes to Palestine and Israel, let me tell you this, man. As I wrote in my book, and God is my witness, I'm not making this up. Jordanians, they don't like Palestinians at all. It's not
Wow.
just like they don't like them. In 1970s, Palestinians militias tried to occupy Jordan. Jordanian army killed almost like 4,000 of them, and then kicked them out of the country. I'm talking about the militias, of course. The Palestinians um, people, they remained in Jordan. 50% of Jordanians are Palestinians. So we never liked them as Jordanians, as pure
Mm,
Jordanians. However, you would find me marching in the streets for Palestine against the Jews, and it's like you would wonder why. What? It's like you don't like them, right? I'll tell you why. I, just like the rest of Muslims around the world, never saw the Palestinian Israeli conflict as a political conflict or as a
yeah.
territorial dispute. We saw it as a theological problem.
Hmm.
Non Muslims, Jews, who are supposed to live as second class citizens under the umbrella of Islam, where for the first time in Islamic history, because since the days of Muhammad, there has always been an Islamic caliphate in place in the region until the fall of the Ottoman Empire in 1924.
That's
So, for
right.
the first time, non Muslims, and out of all the non Muslims, the Jews, who are on the top of the list of the enemies of Allah,
Mm,
they declared sovereignty over what is seen as a Muslim land. That was not acceptable.
mm,
But of course, because the British and the French introduced the concept of the nation state to the region, and Arab leaders at the time, they embraced that concept, and they were, they were presidents, they were kings. So it was not easy for the Muslim population to fight this war for the sake of jihad or for the sake of reestablishing the caliphate. So they had to come up with all kind of labels, like occupation, imperialism, uh, Arab nationalism, whatever. It's like everyone would pick and choose whatever term that fits there or works as a mask
mm.
for jihad. And that is exactly what Israel has been fighting against since the establishment of the state of Israel.
So, okay, to give a little bit of an insight, because unfortunately, even to this point where, individuals like yourself are out there basically crying out in the wilderness, we still have Westerners who look at Islam as whatever's been sold to them, right? Through this, what you call the rebranding of Islam, which I absolutely love. It's like this watered, tainted down, it's like Islam for everybody. I'm seeing Wemby from the NBA. He's now dressed in Islamic regalia. I'm seeing AOC. She's got the hijab on. It's every day I seem to be more mind blown than the last day. Lululemons, you call it, you name it. So what you're saying basically is even though these are mortal enemies, right? The Jordanians looking to the Palestinians as really what they were, which was terrorizers of their people, will still lock arms with one another just because of Islam.
Yeah, they
And
are
so,
they are brothers in religion. Yeah,
how did Muhammad pull something like how did they pull that off to where there is such a lockstep? Because I oftentimes ask the question, why is there no massive movements of Muslims against the jihad, right? Why, when these terrorist attacks happen, we don't have movements like we see in the world of Zionism or in different, for the persecuted Christians, the persecuted Muslims, whatever it is, we don't get that in the Muslim community.
jihad is a divine mandate in Islam. It is a holy war against non-Muslims.
Mm,
Muslims cannot oppose jihad. They can claim to oppose terrorists, but the doctrine itself, it's Islamic, it's in the Quran, it's in the life of Muhammad, so they cannot oppose it. Um, but let me try to explain to you what exactly happened
please.
that made the Muslim world in the way it is to be. So We as human beings, we want to belong. We want to belong to a group.
Mm,
This is how we were designed in order to avoid danger. And our ancestors, they lived that way for centuries and centuries. Then, the world was evolving and changing. The Catholic Church in the 12th century banned cousin or relatives marriages. So people were marrying from outside the group. And then the nuclear family was established. And that is how we ended up with individualistic society in the West. Islam, however,
mm,
um, came up with this genius idea to freeze the primitive instincts of human beings into
mm,
place and to transfer them across generation. So what was seen as something we are growing out of in the past in Islam became sanctified, divinely mandated, so you cannot get rid of, you cannot grow out of, you cannot change. That
wow.
is that is explicitly what Islam is. Islam sanctified the Arabian traditions and customs by making them into a religion. For example, the tribes in the Arab Peninsula before
Mm,
Islam, they used to raid each other. And raid actually was systemized. It was agreed upon between the tribes. Like, we're going to raid each other during these months. And during these 3 months, we're not
wow.
going to do that. We're going to take a break. And there were like regulations uh, for raid. Muhammad, he took the concept of raid
Mm,
and all of its regulations and turned it into the concept of jihad. But this
mm,
time, instead of being a tribe raiding another tribe, it is Arabs raiding the world. So Islam is the Islamization. I'm sorry, Islam is the globalization of Arabism. So that is exactly what happened. The Arabian tribes of the Arab Peninsula started occupying all these lands between Spain and India and turning them into Arabic, erasing the languages, the culture,
correct.
civilizations. So when you ask why Islam is designed in this way,
Yeah.
actually, it's not Islam. It's just the human instinct. It's just the in group dynamics that
Mm,
Islam froze in time. So there's no out and no way out of it. So the tribal system that our ancestors adhered to for survival became the standard in Islam.
mm,
So today we have individualism, we have progress. Whatever happened in Europe in the Western civilization uh, uh, over the past 2,000 years, Islam was prevented from following in the footsteps of the West because of the tribal system that Islam installed or Islam kept, but kept not only as a survival mechanism, but as a religion. So
mm,
that should explain to you the dynamics that you see. For example, an American Muslim would feel closer to an Indonesian Muslim than they would feel toward a fellow non-Muslim American citizen.
mm,
This explains how in Lebanon, for example, Muslims imported all the Islamic causes, the Islamic conflicts into Lebanon, and they stood by their Muslims fellow, non-Lebanese Muslim fellows, fought with them against their fellow Lebanese Christians and
mm.
destroyed Lebanon over the past 50 years. So there's no other religion like that. It's like
Yeah.
Christians, for example, uh, they believe in the concept of citizenship. If
Right.
you're part of the nation state, if you're a member of that arrangement, you feel closer to another member, regardless of their religion. So
Mm.
a Christian from Kansas City doesn't feel closer to a Christian from India. They feel closer to an American fellow who is not a Christian. so
I mean, you
th-
could just see that when you travel overseas, right? You run into another American or whatever it may be, and it's like you don't know anything about them besides they're American. So that is such a powerful point. Wow.
actually, if you're a Jordanian Muslim, for example,
Uh-huh.
and you meet with a Jordanian Christian here in America, and you meet with a Singaporean Muslim,
Mhm.
you will feel closer in culture, in worldview, to that person from Malaysia over the person from Jordan, even though
Wow.
Malaysia is like 10,000 miles away from Jordan. So, because Islam determines that worldview, the
Yeah.
culture, it shapes you. Islam is not a set of ideas.
Mm.
Islam is um, that's why we say Islam is not only a religion. Islam is a political system. It's a comprehensive system, a total system.
Mm.
So yeah, that should explain what we are dealing with here.
So, okay, you are, I'm presuming, forced to leave Jordan, right? It's not that you can just live around folks. You're the 1% of, Christians now living there. You can live freely. So, can you explain to us why is it that you would have to leave and why was Lebanon any better at the time that you left?
So as any Muslim who converts out of Islam cannot live freely in any Islamic country, cannot practice this new faith freely because
Mm.
um, you will, if you're not killed by the state, which is the law in 23 Islamic countries, you will be killed by the people themselves
Wow.
because in Islamic countries, the tyrannical public opinion is still ruling, regardless of the laws of the land. If you're not killed by the people, you will live a miserable life. You will
Mm.
lose your civil rights. You'll lose your wife. You cannot pass inheritance to your children. It's crazy. It's like your children will be forced to be Muslims. They will be taken away from you. Um, so it was not possible for me to practice my new faith in Jordan. So I moved to Lebanon. Lebanon is the only country in the Middle East. Forget Israel now, because here I'm
Right.
talking about Lebanon and the Islamic countries. It's the only country in the Middle East where Christians are still, um, they're not the majority. They used to be the majority a few decades ago, but they still have like influence over the system. So in
Okay.
Lebanon, you can convert, you can even change your religion in the birth certificate or on your ID.
Mm.
Of course, that is changing in certain regions in Lebanon, but that is why I chose Lebanon because it was the only place where I could go and practice my faith um, and be safe at the same time.
So I then got to ask about guys like Tucker. Because, here we have Tucker talking about how it's so much better for Christians to be in Jordan and the rest of the Middle East, right? He's going to say Afghanistan next,
Yeah,
than
yeah, yeah.
it is in Israel. So you can confirm
Choose,
that that is incorrect?
choose. Yeah, yeah. It's man, it is ridiculous. It's like Tucker Carlson can go to my country and he can stand there with wealthy people who are
Mm,
loyalists to the king, to the government. Listen, I love the king because
mhm,
he's the only. Uh, it's like if the king goes away today,
yeah,
the alternative is going to be ISIS. Okay,
yeah,
it's going to be an Islamic government just like in Syria. So
mm,
no, it's like the lesser of two evils. But Tucker Carlson would go to my country and he would,
yeah,
meet all with all these people and he would like, praise the system in Jordan and the Christians would meet with him and tell him how, it's amazing. They're living like equally. They're protected. Yes, 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 they're protected. But they're not free. They're
Yeah.
slaves of the
Mm,
system. They cannot practice their faith. It's like I will give you an example. A couple of years ago, the Bible Society in Jordan, they wanted to celebrate the Independence Day.
mm,
So they hanged like ads on the street, not ads. It's like they hanged like some Bible verses, celebrating the Independence Day. And within hours, it's like everyone in the country were like, "Oh, you're posting verses from the distorted book. You're infidels. Take them down." And it's like you are a citizen as long as you adhere to the Islamic submission,
right.
Islamic
Yeah.
supremacy. You will be protected. But try to do anything differently, and you will see what's going to happen to you.
Right.
So and of course, listen, appeasement is something that Christians have done for centuries in the Islamic
Of
world,
course.
just like Jews did it in across the world. So
Yeah.
again, back to that belonging to the group thing. They want to belong, so they would appease the other side, the oppressor. Um, for example, there was a Jordanian journalist, Christian, who was fighting for all the Arab causes, um, hated Israel.
Hmm.
It was like one of the biggest, uh, the, one of the main people, main voices who would stand against Israel for years and years. Actually, he wrote an article that described Muhammad as our national symbol. And he's a Christian, okay? During the ISIS war in Syria in 2016, he posted a caricature describing the God as how ISIS imagine. It's like,
Okay.
God in heaven giving people virgins and all of that. The following day, he was murdered on the street of Amman. So he spent 50 years. You can look him up. His name is not Hatar. He spent 50 years defending, the Islamic causes under the banner of, Arab nationalism or whatever banners they chose. But of course, appeasing the Muslim majority, praising Muhammad. And the moment he criticized the God of ISIS,
Mm,
who the Muslims claim don't represent them, right? Muslims in the West. They
of
claim
course.
that, not Muslims in the Arab world. But anyway, um, the moment he criticized that God, that image of God, he was murdered. So,
Mm,
so this is like Tucker Carlson would never mention this.
of course.
And as I said, it's the irony is that Tucker would go to my country and do this, and I can't go to my country. so, so just think of that. Think of the logic that Tucker is trying to brainwash Americans, making Americans
Absolutely.
vulnerable
Yeah.
to Islamic jihad. Attacking Israel is not about Israel anymore. Attacking Israel is making the West vulnerable to Islamic jihad. It's as simple
Hmm.
as that. If you stand against Israel, you are siding with Islam. You're empowering Islam in the West. So, um, when I started doing this, since I converted to Christianity, I chose not to be polemic, actually. I was
Mm,
like, you know what, let's focus on the gospel. And I was, I liked a Christian theologian. His name is Cornelius Van Til. And Cornelius Van
okay.
Til, he promoted this approach called presuppositionalism. So Cornelius said that you don't to attack people's faith or ideology, whatever, to convince them of the gospel. You just need to use the Bible. So
Mm,
we presuppose certain facts about the word, and those facts are like we start. Our starting point is the presupposed facts of the Bible. So we don't deal with people. We don't negotiate with their ideas. We just tell them our ideas. So I was like, for many years, I was like that. I chose not to be polemic against Islam. But then after October 7, I was like, okay, what is happening now is not only about evangelism. It's not about the gospel.
yeah.
It's more than that. This is This is threatening the future generations in the West, the greatest civilizations ever created. And whatever happened to our ancestors' civilization in the Islamic world is going to
Mm,
happen to this civilization. So
right.
I look at this as not only from a Christian perspective, but from just a human perspective.
Absolutely.
I understand that the church sometimes they don't want to, Christian believers, they don't want to be defiled with politics, and they look at what people like me do as politics. But this is not politics. First of all, politics is theology. Everything
That's
is
right. It's
different.
it's all throughout your scripture, from beginning to
Everything you
end this.
do, everything you do is theology. The way you deal
Mm,
with everyday's events is
yeah,
theology. The way you treat your wife, the way you raise your children, it's theology.
absolutely.
Polity of the land is theology. But anyway, um, I look at this as a sacred mission,
Mm,
mission to warn people, because look at the accumulated achievements of the past generations, 2,000 years of Western history, of development, progress, self correction,
mm,
that civilization that gave the world everything good in it. It's the Judeo Christian heritage. It is, just think of it this way, Christianity in the West gave birth to the Enlightenment. Because if the conditions the Enlightenment existed in were not present, there would have been no Enlightenment.
yeah.
So the Enlightenment is the product of Christianity. And this is actually what Tom Holland in his book Dominion says. And he's not even Christian, one
Mm,
of the most brilliant authors of our time. Just read his book, How Christianity Made the World. But anyway, the Enlightenment took the Judeo Christian principles of the intrinsic value of a human being, for example, secularized it. So it became a human consensus. It's not biblical principle that we were created in the image of God. No, no, no. It's a human consensus. We agree that there's an intrinsic value for human beings. Okay, whatever. Then it globalized it under the Declaration of Human Rights in the 1940s. This is a Christian principle being
correct.
embraced
That's right.
by the rest of the world,
Yeah.
but severed from its biblical God. But whatever, it's okay. So this civilization, instead of celebrating its achievement in the abolishment of slavery, for example, it's being condemned for slavery, while
That's
every
right.
other civilization in the history of man practiced slavery. And I have to add this: if it was not for the West, we would still have slaves markets across the globe today.
Absolutely.
It's the Western influence
Yeah.
that forced the rest of the world to abolish slavery. So the
Absolutely.
self-correction element embedded in the Christian West is the reason why we don't have slaves anymore.
That's good.
And you want to condemn the West and the idiots, white guilt. I can't stand that.
Man, you and me both, brother. You and me
For
both.
God's sake, it's like e- women. Okay, the West corrected the oppression that was practiced on women.
That's right.
Correction, it was great, equal rights, voting rights, etc. Oh, the correction was not enough. Let's keep pushing for overcorrection and radical feminism. And today, because of overcorrection, we ended up in uh, uh, as bad state
Yep.
of things as it was before.
That's right.
And the West is being condemned for what? Patriarchy. It's like, are you kidding me? It's like, you guys need to go, you need to travel and just, go experience other cultures, then come back. And so
But these are the same people waving that Palestinian flag with their whole heart.
Yeah, because it's not about Palestine. Listen, they don't
That's
care about
right.
Palestine.
That's right.
It's it's about, for example, that transsexuals. Why transsexuals are marching for Palestine?
Right.
It is as simple as it's actually stupid because it's very clear. The system, the culture, my family, they don't accept my behavior or my choice or whatever, even though they let me do it, but they just don't like it. Okay.
Yeah.
So their enemy is my friend.
Oh.
Hamas is the enemy of the West. Hamas is my friend because both of us are oppressed by the same system. This is intersectionality. And intersectionality is
Mm.
the stupidest thing in the world, man. It's like to extrapolate a certain situation to other situation without context, without history, without
Yeah.
nothing. It's
Yeah.
just any underdog is oppressed. The
Yeah.
oppressed is right. So if you are weak, that means you are right.
Yeah.
If you're successful, like Israel, and I talked about this before. Do you know why the left today they hate Israel? They hate Jews.
Why
It's
is that?
simple. So you have the Marxist and different branches of Marxism. Uh, no, Marxism in general. And please
Sure.
follow this logic because it's very it's you're gonna find it's really appealing. So you have Marxism um, making the proletariat or the laborers, the workers, on the front line or putting them on the front line of the revolution. You're going
Right.
to lead the revolution, right? That was the logic of Marxism for 2 centuries. Then, because of capitalism, the proletariat in the West they became wealthy. So
They
they were
became
like,
oppressor.
right, yeah. So they became like, well, we're not interested in taking down the system. Sorry.
Yep.
So the Marxists, they had to find an alternative.
Mm.
The alternative was what? Identities.
That's right.
So it's not a class, it's identities. Let's go, African Americans. Oh, guys, you were oppressed. You were inside. Let's revolt against this system. And woman, you too,
Yeah.
transsexual, homosexual, and Jews, you were oppressed by the West. Come on,
Mm.
guys, come. And Jews said, "Oh, yeah, we're not interested. I'm sorry. We're going to build the state. We're
Oh.
going to be successful. We're going to ally with the West, same values. We're going just, to celebrate this alliance. We're gonna forget about. We're not gonna forget the Holocaust. We're gonna be
Right.
strong. It's like it's never a gain, but we're not gonna hold to the
Yeah. The victim
resentment and hatred
mentality
and
and
victim mentality and the
yeah.
grievances. We're gonna just, grow out of that." And the left was like, "What? You're not gonna
Mm.
capitalize on it?" So Israel broke the model that gives legitimacy
Wow.
or give a fuel to the entire Marxist movement in the West. Israel is the evidence that you don't have to be a victim, a perpetual victim. Israel is the evidence that no matter what happened to your ancestors, you can become successful. You can build. Imagine what does that do to the entire framework of the Marxist ideology.
And the
So,
thing crumbles overnight. My goodness.
that's why Israel is hated, man.
Hmm.
Israel would be celebrated by, and the Israeli occupation would be celebrated by the left and defended if Israel chooses to stand against the West.
That's
If
right.
Israel chooses to say, oh, we were oppressed by the imperialist.
Mm.
But Israel is not
The
doing that.
white man did it to me, Danny. It's the white man's fault.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And
Yeah.
they'll be having
Just
parades for him all up and down Times Square right now.
absolutely. Yeah. So, yeah, man, we're dealing
Wow,
with
that is so good. So when did you come to a place where Israel became a thing for you? Did it come through your faith? Like, what is the window of, wait a minute, I go from hating these people ideologically, right? It is not because I have a personal grievance. I've never even been around these people, to all of a sudden you are a defender because you understand this is a plight of the West. What is that transition?
so I was programmed, just like
Mhm.
Muslims everywhere, to see Jews as non-human or
Hmm.
subhuman, monsters, with the devil.
Wow.
I was expecting that the first time I would meet a Jew, I would see horns and tails. Okay, so I'm not exaggerating. Even it's like
Wow.
in our mind, the word Yehudi in Arabic, Jew, is just Satan. Okay, never met a Jew in my life. I told you
Right.
until I was like 18 years old. Um, I actually never had a relationship with any Jewish person until after October 7th. But
Wow.
when I was 18, I was visiting Petra, Petra in Jordan, and um, I was on that trip with a Palestinian friend. Um, and that friend, he was climbing a very dangerous cliff. And people were just passing by. No one paid attention. No one cared. And then this group of people was passing by. And this lady, she looked at my friend and she was like, no, you got to come down now. This is dangerous. And she stopped the entire group. The entire group stopped. They didn't move until he came down. Then I found out that it was a group from Israel. I was like,
Oh
these the
no.
Jews? They look nice. They look.
She was
I didn't.
concerned for my friend's, well-being.
She didn't ask if he was Palestinian or Indian, or she was like,
Wow.
you're a human being. I care for you.
Yeah.
Even though Jordanians were just passing by and didn't care. But anyway, it's like that was my first encounter. Um, but of course, after converting to Christianity, the moment that I left Islam, when you leave Islam, a burden is removed from your shoulders.
Hmm.
And in that package, hatred to Jews, because you get to re examine your worldview.
Yeah.
You go through that struggle of trying to um, determine what damage has been done to your psyche, to your understanding of the word. And so it was really quick after I left Islam that the way I viewed Jews changed.
Wow.
Yeah.
So that then was, I guess, preparation to have a heart that had softened in essence to then October 7th being a personal thing for you, right? Because, when I view October 7th, I was wholly unaware until probably a year later when I started really being out there with just overall politics, right? Coming out as a black conservative and that sort of thing. And that just was like the natural course of like, where's leftism going, et cetera. And so, you know, I couldn't help but feel the sentiment of, okay, it seems like this is an issue that the world has chosen a side on. All people who are not involved, et cetera. And so it was, I guess, obvious for you when that hit to say, this is my battle as well. Is that correct?
Yes. And listen, people like me and you who come from groups who are pushed to remain victims,
Mm.
we coming from the third ward,
Yeah.
oh, you gotta be a victim all the time. And African Americans, it's like when we are liberated from that
Yeah.
mindset, we become aggressive in
Yeah.
attacking that because we
That's
see it
so
as the
true.
reason why it's holding our people back. Why it's
Absolutely.
so it's a prison, it's a cage that we came out of. Look at the United Arab Emirates, for example. It is the
Yeah.
only Islamic country. that decided not to capitalize on the grievances of Islam
Mm.
and just to move away and, you know, make peace with Israel, import the Western system into its system, and now it's hated by uh, Iran. Was even
Yeah.
though Iran is at war with Israel, Iran is throwing more missiles at the United Arab Emirates than Israel. It's like, what's going on? Oh, I'm telling
Yeah.
you what's going on. The United Arab Emirates just decided to let go of that narrative of grievances and,
Mm.
oh, the West is plotting against us. The Jews, it's like they said, enough is enough.
Yeah.
So that is why people look at me and see that I'm serious, I'm aggressive,
Yeah.
because I look at my people and they're prisoners of these ideas. Once you see, instead of being envious of the rich
Mm.
or accusing the rich of being corrupt or a thief, why don't you learn
That's
from the
right.
rich?
That's right.
I want to be that. I want to be that person,
Yeah.
but unfortunately, the communist, the Marxist worldview found in the Islamic soil the perfect incubator to grow.
Mm.
So it's not only Islamic theology, it's also Marxism, um, transforming Islam, or I would say, um, locking its ideas with Islamic ideas in a way that made it impossible for anyone to go out of that prison.
Yeah.
So that is why my fight today is not only against Islam, it's also against this destructive religion that is called Marxism,
Absolute so, like, Mamdani
which
is
is being rebranded as socialism, by the way.
of course,
There's
and
no yeah.
democratic, they threw democratic on
Yeah,
that
yeah.
one, and, we called it a day. So, speaking of such, you have a guy like Mamdani who I mean, okay, were you surprised when this man got into office, knowing what you know?
No, of course not. Because in New York, 60% of the people were not born in America, I believe, or something like that.
Wow.
So foreigners who became citizens later. So they don't. There's something. Let me say this from a Christian perspective, from a
Yeah.
theological perspective. Okay, so we are trying to justify our existence
Mm.
all the time. We want to be justified.
Yeah.
That is what we call justification by works. So, from a religious perspective, you want to be a good person. You want to obey the commandments to be saved. But actually, it's not only religious people who are trying to be justified by words, it's everyone in the world.
Mm.
You want a better car because it justifies you, it gives you value, okay? You
Yeah.
want a better wife, better house, etc., etc. So, um, when someone is better than you, and here I'm talking about a human thing,
Yeah.
regardless of your background, when
Sure.
someone is better than you, even if it's your brother,
Yeah.
there's something in your heart that doesn't like that.
Mm.
You probably you would celebrate him, you would encourage him, you would support him, but deep down, if he is better than you, if he's helping you, if he's giving you money, for example, you resent that.
That's right.
It doesn't matter how a great person you are. This is a human thing. Now, take this to uh, groups instead of individuals. So the rest of the world look at America and they want to come here. They do the impossible to come, to be part of the American dream.
Yeah.
But at the same time, they don't like that. It's not
Hmm.
their culture. It's not their
Wow.
civilization. They feel like they want to undermine the people who are responsible for this culture. They want to keep the culture. They want to keep the fruit, but
Yeah.
they want to destroy the roots. Because this is the same thing that happens with uh, morality. It's
Right.
like it's like the Western secular liberal society wants to get rid of the biblical God, but they want to keep all the moral things. And so the same thing. It's like I don't like the fact that this is not my culture. I
Hmm.
want everything good in it, but it's like if I can, um, undermine the people who claim ownership, I would do that.
Wow.
And this is part of how people vote. So we're going to vote to someone who comes from the third ward because that gives us value. It's not only you, white people, it's not only you, Christians, it's also us. Now it's a Muslim mayor of the greatest city in the world. Therefore, the greatest city in the world is not Christian anymore. It's not a white
Wow.
city anymore. It's us. So it's all about justification by works. It's all about trying to get righteousness
Yeah.
or value from anything. So that explains part of why people would always. I'm talking about foreigners,
Yeah.
people who come here and become Americans. They don't completely embrace the American culture, the American worldview. They want to bring their culture, and that is another problem. They want to import their culture with them,
Hmm.
but get the outcome of the Western culture. It doesn't work because the
They're not
outcome,
compatible. Like,
the outcome you are enjoying
yeah.
is the result of the culture you are rejecting.
Correct.
So importing your culture would mean that, or means that we would end up with different outcome.
Mm.
Outcomes similar to the outcomes in your countries where you run away from. No one seems to understand that. They're like, no, I can't bring all my stupid ideas into
Yeah.
the West, hold them close to my heart, defend them, and at the same time expect the West to remain the West. No.
So there's something you explain in the book, which is this phase system, right? Of when
Yeah.
Islam specifically comes in, and now we kind of hear this sort of breakdown, like a brother of yours, Dr. Gad, said, which is, there's jihad by population or by politics or whatever. So you had this beautiful breakdown in there, which just blew my mind, and especially traveling through Europe, etc. It became so clear, and you pointed to Lebanon as like an end result, right? When now you have militias on the street that are of the people. So can you break that down? And because again, like I feel like in the West we're almost in sleepwalking is the best way I can look at it, right? It's like there's so many people walking like zombies, and this is happening in real time.
So there was this model Dr. Peter Hammond
Mhm.
actually put in his book, and I mentioned that in my book, but I built on his model.
Mhm.
So he explained how when Muslims are between 0 and 2%, they act in a certain way. When they are between 2 and 5%, different way. Then 5 to 10%, they become more aggressive, more
Mhm.
demanding. Then 10 to 20%, actually 10 to 20% of Muslims in any country equals 50% of other groups because of how active and how hardcore uh, believers they are and what they are trying to push for.
Wow.
So I explained or built on Dr. Hammond's model and said, okay, so if you want to create another Gaza in Europe, in the UK, for example,
Yeah.
the trajectory is simple. You get the numbers, then more accommodations, then you reach a point where you cannot accommodate anymore without changing who you are as a country.
Hmm.
So at one point, the Western governments are going to say to Muslims, sorry, we cannot accommodate this. We cannot give you this. And that would um, trigger Islamophobia, oppression, So the Muslim community or Muslim society is going to use that rejection of further accommodation
Mm.
to capitalize on victimhood narratives, and that would be supported by foreign players, state and non-state
Okay.
players who would come with the aid, with the support, with the weapons, with whatever, in order to because so the majority of Muslims in the world, they're not political activists. But the Muslim political activist, the so-called Islamist, actually, an Islamist is just a Muslim who decides to speak about public matters.
Right.
So, but anyway, so the different political parties that have political interest, Islamic, of course, they would push for violence, and violence would lead to civil wars. Then calls for separation or autonomous sovereignty will be a thing at one point, and then that will lead to the balkanization of Europe. I
Hmm.
explained that in details in the book, and I said, okay, Gaza is seen as, oh, Israel is occupying Gaza, and people in Gaza are just, defending themselves. The same thing is going to happen in Europe. There will be
Hmm.
enclaves in Europe that people will be seen as defending themselves. And European countries will be the new Israel. But instead of one Gaza and one Israel, we will have probably 20 Gaza and 20 Israels in Europe. The same narrative is going to happen again, the same story, the same same footage that we will see. Look at the UK army or UK police killing children in the
Genocide, apartheid state, and
yeah,
killing
same thing is gonna
babies.
yeah. So
Mm.
that's unfortunately that's the future of Western Europe.
Wow.
And let me tell you this: I'm not trying to be here. I'm not trying to sound like. Uh, I know that it's very dark,
Yeah.
but forgive me. This is the only trajectory in Europe. We are um, too late now to any other remedy,
Wow. Wow.
because the numbers are going to bring that.
Yeah.
Uh, and it's going to happen. It's going to happen
Yeah.
because it didn't only happen in Palestine or in Lebanon or across the Middle East and North Africa or in Eastern Europe in
Mm.
some Eastern European Islamic countries. So it's going to happen in Western Europe. It's
Yeah.
just
And okay, so America still has a fighting chance, you believe?
Islam will never take over America in a
Mm.
thousand years.
Why is
America
that?
is an America is an empire.
Mhm.
And there's a secret. The secret is called Second Amendment.
Hmm.
So as long as America has the Second Amendment in place, no, it is a
It's
deterrence.
true,
It
it's true. Against
is
our own tyrants, then how much more
it is a
outsiders, yeah.
deterrence. I'm not talking about violence. I'm
Of
just talking
course.
about deterrence.
Uh-huh.
It's like some cities, some states
Yeah.
would become Islamic. That for
Mm.
sure. In 50 years, in 100 years. Just like look at Dearborn, Michigan today, it's
Yeah,
Islamic. So bigger city are gonna be like that, probably New York City,
yeah.
probably, uh, I don't know. Now you have Patterson, New Jersey, maybe
Mm.
Tampa in Florida is next, Houston, Texas, whatever, but some states are gonna be Islamic, but that's it.
Yeah.
Americans are, not Europeans
Mm.
because Americans are not controlled by their governments.
Mm.
American the Americans control the government. I know that many people, they try to paint it in a different way.
That's
It's
true.
like, "Oh, the elite, they're destroying us. They're" it's like, "Just shut up, please. You have no idea what you're talking about. Americans are still deciding everything."
Yeah.
They it's like Americans change their president every 4 years.
Yep.
So now they're being like, convinced that, oh, there's a deep state. It's the deep state. It's the Jews. It's APAC. It's the Zionists. That's like, no, 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 no. America is different. It's a constitutional republic.
Yeah.
What the people want happens.
Yeah.
Uh, uh, because people vote people in and out. This but of course, the Second Amendment, as I said, is a deterrence against the expansion of Islamic Jihad in America. It's not going to be like Europe. In Europe, people are, you know, um, so weak. Um, Maybe it's the guilt
Yeah.
of the
Imperialism
world.
and colonizing and,
Yeah, they're even though the European colonialism actually left the colonized countries better off
yeah.
than when they arrived.
Don't say
But
you're gonna get yourself in trouble now telling that kind of truth.
I
They don't
don't
want to
care.
hear that. They don't want to hear that, Danny. Say it.
I'm from a colonized country. It's called Jordan.
Likewise.
Okay,
That's right.
we were colonized by the UK,
Yep.
and Syria, Lebanon by France, Egypt by the UK. The most prosperous, the most advanced,
Yeah.
the most tolerant period in our time was when the British were colonizing us.
That's right.
The schools we have,
Yeah.
the universities, the roads, that it's like the museums.
Yeah.
That's like you look at that, it's just and all of that happened in 20 years
Yeah.
of colonization. Yesterday, Jordan was celebrating the Independence Day, and many Jordanians know what I'm about to tell you. When we are behind the closed doors,
Yeah.
we always say, we wish if we are still
Mm.
colonized by the British.
Wow.
It's like, it's like people don't want to believe that. It's like, it's their problem, but it's the truth.
Zimbabwe hasn't
Celebrating that,
recovered, brother. So I know. I get that. They have not recovered since the Brits left. Unbelievable.
yeah, yeah, I don't care for this. Listen, what happened in academia in the West, and especially in America, is unbelievable, okay?
Yeah.
Because painting the West as the evil or the force of evil behind everything bad in the world is a demonic thing,
Yeah.
because the West was and still is behind everything good in the world. It's like, look at the achievements the Western civilization
Yeah.
provided to the world. We talked about part of it. It's like human rights declaration,
Mm.
women rights, but the inventions in medicine,
Yes.
and it's like the lifespan of human beings as a result of what the West gave the world.
Yeah.
So I'm sorry, but when I look at some teenager who hates his family, his parents, and who believes that the criminal family down the road is better than his parents, who are trying to give him a good life, I look at a useful idiot.
That's
I
right.
don't look at a person who is aware of what he is doing.
Yeah.
That is how I look at all these people on the streets condemning and demonizing the West and
Mhm.
Israel. It's like, you guys are teenagers.
Yeah.
You don't understand anything. You grew up in prosperity and comfort that you did not create,
Yeah.
that was passed to you. And unfortunately, you will pass to your children misery because of what you are doing. So, yeah, celebrating, we call it sin as Christians,
Mhm.
but people who are not Christians, they celebrate um, all these destructive behaviors,
Yeah.
all destructive um, ideas. I believe that we as a human beings, because we know. inside our hearts that we don't deserve good.
Mm.
Because from as a Christian, in the Bible,
Yeah.
it says that we're sinners, we
Yeah.
fall short of the glory of God,
That's right.
we're condemned, we're under the wrath of God. So we know deep in our hearts that we don't deserve good.
Mm.
So people who found themselves living saturated in goodness in the West, they cannot accept that. They just
That's so
want to
good.
self-destruct in order to get rid of the feeling of unworthiness and deserving.
Wow.
So that is something, of course, if you're not a Christian, it's hard to
Yeah.
accept it or understand. But this self destructive behavior in this generation is the result of not being able to accept the gift from your ancestors because you feel like you don't deserve it. When you look at people living in different cultures in the rest of the world, living a miserable life, and you look at your life, everything is secured.
Yeah.
Prosperity, healthcare, even if it's expensive, but still
It's
you
there.
can you can get you can get it,
Yeah.
um, and you can't accept that because it puts a burden on your shoulder. It
Mm.
makes you feel like um, guilty,
Yeah.
and that guilt comes from a misunderstanding of the word.
Yeah.
You think that good ideas, which leads to good outcomes, like what happened here in the West, should be condemned because there are bad ideas that are leading to bad results. It's like, it's not your responsibility. It's not your problem. Societies that choose to follow good ideas, they will have better outcomes.
Yeah.
It's not your problem. You don't destroy your good society because there is a society that is unable to reach that goodness. It's like how it's like how clear do you need it to be in order to see it?
My
But
my
no.
my dad told me a story about a kid when I was growing up. We were in South Africa at the time, and these are mostly white parents, etc. And we were one of the only black families in this specific school. And one of the dads said, it's so unfortunate how poor so many of these kids are in Soweto, blah blah blah. And he said, I need to send my son to a school in Soweto so he really knows what it's like. And my dad, the only black man in the group, looked at him and he said, that's a terrible idea. He said, what you need to do is find some kids in Soweto and bring them here. And it blew this, you know what I mean? So exactly what you're saying. It's like, why are you punishing your son as opposed to, bring somebody so they can see how to actually build something that is productive.
Yeah,
So
it's
good.
like this again, you feel guilty
Yeah.
because you did not build this goodness.
Hmm.
And you believe you don't deserve it because
Yeah.
someone else built it. If you built it yourself, you wouldn't care
That's true. Yeah.
because it's your effort.
Yeah.
Again, justification by works,
Mm.
righteousness by works. When you do it yourself, you accept it. Salvation is given to you for free. It's a grace of
Wow.
God.
Yeah.
You don't accept it.
Yeah.
Why? Because you did not earn it. You need to earn it. So, same thing. The civilization that someone else built, you don't feel worthy of inheriting it. So you want to
Mm.
destroy it. You want America to become like Somalia so that you're equal. You're not, you don't have anything that you did not earn. That is human selfishness. That is human
Mm.
centeredness. And the gospel explains it
Yes.
perfect.
That's right.
So so you just need actually, it's like I'm not asking you to convert to Christianity. I'm just asking you, people who are trying to destroy the West because
Yeah.
they feel guilty. I just invite you to believe in the Christian concept. Forget Christianity, just a Christian concept of accepting gifts. Okay? This is
Wow.
a gift from your ancestors. Take it and don't try to destroy it because other people don't have it.
That's right.
That's like
Then you won't even
self-righteous.
have it to give to the next person, because they claim they wanna save everybody. You got nothing to save them with.
Yeah, yeah,
Bro, this
yeah.
is one of the most poignant points, and I've never heard somebody articulate it in such a way, which is, most people know white guilt, but it's like the seatedness of the unwillingness to accept a gift freely given. And like you said, that is the rejection of the gospel. Brother, we're in wrap up time. We need to make
I
sure that.
gotta I gotta go another interview actually in 7 minutes.
Okay,
So
beautiful. So we're right on time, and I'm thankful you gave me an extra 20. So I was pushing it as far as I could with this, just so you know that I booked an
no,
hour,
I
but I was
enjoyed
like,
the
please,
conversation though. Yeah.
likewise. But I need the people to be able to get access to everything you're doing. So the book, 100%, I'm going to log down here. I recommend it. Read through it in 4 to 5 days. Like it is, spectacular. Where else can people tune into your work?
So on X, I'm
Hmm.
at Dan Burmawi,
Hmm.
Burmawy.
Hmm.
My website, Dan Burmawi with an I,
Hmm.
.com. And go to idicenter.org. It's our organization.
Okay.
And yeah, that is like a think tank like no other in
Mm.
DC because we are former Muslims, Arabic Christians,
Wow.
Western thinkers who are subject matter experts trying to advise policymakers, the church, the public
Yeah.
about the theological threat or ideological threat that is the West is facing. So thank
Beautiful.
you again for having me, man.
And thank you
Um,
for having us. This has been a delight, and yeah, folks are gonna love this. I already know.
God bless, man.
Take care. God bless. Peace.